So today's topic is regarding peripheral nervous system. So what the peripheral nervous system includes here means, so we know that one from the spinal cord and then the brain. So two components of the central nervous system, what those are called as brain and then the spinal cord. So from brain, particularly the part of brain called as here the means the protective structure of the brain called as cranium, okay, and spinal cord. The nerves arises called as, these nerves are called as cranial and then the spinal nerves. These are called as cranial and the spinal nerves. These cranial and then the spinal nerves and their branches innervate means enter into the various parts of the body, So these nerves and their branches innervate means enter various parts of body in order to provide the end-to-end or the point-to-point control and coordination of the various organ systems and tissues present in our body to carry out the specific physiological function. So that is what the requirement of nervous system for the higher organs, right? In order to achieve control and coordination of the various physiological activities carried out by the systems present in our body. We already know that one. Out of 12 cranial nerves, 10 will arise from the medulla oblongata only. Right? So let's discuss regarding those cranial nerves first. Cranial nerves. See how many pair of cranial nerves are present in anamniotes and then the amniotes. See cranial nerves. So cranial nerves, number of cranial nerves that differentiate between the anamniotes and then the amniotes. What do you mean by anamniotes? Those organisms embryo where during the development of embryo, if there is no development of the amnion layer, those are called as anamniotes. If the amnion layer develops, that is called as amniotes. So the cranial nerves in anamniotes are 10. How many pairs will be present? 10 pairs. Okay. What about in case of amniotes means? So cranial nerves among amniotes are 12 pairs. Okay. So how many pairs will be present in human beings then? 12 pairs. Particularly in the higher vertebrates, the 12 pairs of cranial nerves will be present. So among these 12 pairs of cranial nerves, first 10 pairs are, okay, so they are homologous in nature in vertebrates. The first 10 pairs among the 12 pairs of cranial nerves are homologous. Okay, so let's discuss about their origin, okay, and where they are distributed, what is their nature and what is their function, and what are the names of these 12 cranial nerves. Okay. Next, before that, so let's discuss about let's name some of the cranial nerves here. Say for example, the trigeminal and then the abducens, trigeminal and then the abducens, and along with that one the median nerve, trigeminal nerve is the one, abducens is the another one, and then the median nerve, and then one more is there, that is the branch of a ninth nerve, ninth cranial nerve. See here, the trigeminal nerve, okay, this is called as dentist nerve. What is the name given for this one is dentist nerve. Trigeminal nerve is called as dentist nerve. Trigeminal nerve is called as dentist nerve. Why it is called as dentist nerve? It mainly means covering the sensory part of teeth, and as well as it helps in the mastication of the food or the movement of the jaw. So only it is called as dentist nerve. Next, abducens. This abducens is meant for rotation of eyeball. Rotation of eyeball. The main nerve which responsible for the rotation of the eyeball. Next, median nerve. This median nerve is also called as Leber's nerve. Leber's nerve. Why it is called as Leber's nerve? Leber's median nerve is called as Leber's nerve. Why? Because it mainly control the function or the hard or the strong functions which can be carried out with the hands, four hands. So that will be under the control of this median nerve. Okay, so only it is called as a Leber's nerve. So laborers, while carrying out the work or the hard activities, so the main part of the body being used are the hands only. That is the coordinated movement between the fingers and then the ulnar and then the radius. That is mainly forearm and then the palm is being used. So that is under the control of which nerve? That is median nerve. So it is called as Leber's nerve. Then branch of ninth cranial nerve is called as Jacobson's nerve. This is called as Jacobson's nerve. Jacobson's nerve. So why it is called as Jacobson's nerve means? So in reptiles, while discussing regarding the class Reptilia, we will mention regarding Jacobson's organ, which is present in the roof of the upper jaw, right? So the buccal upper roof of the buccal cavity. So particularly in case of snakes, that is used for the olfaction. That is used for olfaction. But here, this nerve is connecting the eustachian tube in the human beings. Eustachian tube in the human beings, and it is also sensory in nature. So only it is called as Jacobson's nerve here. So trigeminal is called as dentist nerve. Abducens is mainly meant for the rotation of the eyeball, and then median nerve is Leber's nerve, and branch of ninth nerve is called as Jacobson's nerve. And one more major nerve is there, which is called as the musician's nerve. What is that nerve? Is ulnar. Okay, so the ulnar nerve is called as musician's nerve. Why it is called as musician nerve? Why it is called as musician nerve? Prithvi? Why it may be called as musician nerve? Anyone? Andre musicians ಮಾತ್ರ ಇರುತ್ತಾ nerve? ಬೇರೆ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಇರಲ್ವಾ? Ulnar. Ulnar means that nerve will be arising from the ulnar region, means that passes through the ulnar region mainly, right? So why it is called as musician nerve? So musicians usually they will use their fingers, right? So there should be a fast movement, coordinated movement between the fingers, right? For example, piano play ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ, guitar play ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ, right? Or flute ಅನ್ನು play ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ. Okay, the main parts of the hand used are, that is nothing but the fingers only. So as they control the coordinated movement of these fingers, okay, those are called as that nerve is called as musician's nerve. Okay, and particularly this musician nerve is associated with which part of the, or which associated with which bone in our body, means that is the ulnar joint here, that is called as the funny bone of our body. Okay, so here the bone present is called as a funny bone present in our body. Why it is called as funny bone? Maybe in your childhood or now also you may be playing with some other's hand like this. If you, okay, ಸೊ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಅದು ಸೊ ಟಚ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅಥವಾ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಹೊಡೆದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ ಶಾಕ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆದಂಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ರೈಟ್? ದಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಕಾಸ್ ಎನಿ ಡ್ಯಾಮೇಜ್ ಟು ದ ಐದರ್ ದ ಬೋನ್ ಆರ್ ದ ನರ್ವ್, ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಫನ್ ಪರ್ಪಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ಮೇ ಬಿ ಪ್ಲೇಯಿಂಗ್, ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಫನ್ನಿ ಬೋನ್. ಓಕೆ, ಅಂಡ್ ನರ್ವ್ which is sensitive for that funny bone is nothing but ulnar nerve. Is it clear? Okay. So 12 pair of cranial nerves among amniotes and human beings. So they are as follows. Okay, here the name of nerve, name of the nerve, and so where they are being origin, okay, or where they are present. So what is the first one is, that is olfactory nerve, right? After the olfactory nerve, next one is optic nerve. Yes, third one is oculomotor, right? Oculomotor nerve. And fourth one is trochlear nerve. And fifth one is trigeminal nerve. Next, sixth is abducens nerve, right? Abducens. Next is facial. After that auditory. After the auditory, glossopharyngeal. Next is vagus. After the vagus, spinal accessory. And last one is what is that? Hypoglossal. So these are the 12 pairs of nerves which are present in the higher organs, particularly the vertebrates in that amniotes. So what is the origin of olfactory nerve? So this is being originated from the olfactory lobe, and then the optic nerve is being originated from the optic lobe. Then what about this oculomotor, means that is the floor of midbrain, and the origin of the trochlear nerve is also the floor of the midbrain only. Then trigeminal from pons. Next, abducens is from pons. Facial nerve is from pons. Next, auditory from pons. And next is glossopharyngeal. This is from the side of medulla. Okay, next the vagus. This is also from side of medulla. Next, so remaining two are also from the side of medulla only. Okay, so these are the origin of the various cranial nerves. Where they are present, what is their distribution? What is their distribution? Where they are distributed? Next is regarding their distribution. Yes, what is the distribution of olfactory nerve? It is present in or distributed among olfactory epithelium. So where is the presence of olfactory epithelium? That is in nasal cavity. Nasal cavity. So next is regarding optic nerve. So where will be the presence of optic nerve means? That is retina of eye. So it is present in retina of eye. Next is oculomotor nerve. That is present in, that is eyeball, right? Which is present in eyeball. That is the muscles of the eyeball. Okay. Next, the trochlear nerve, superior oblique muscle of eyeball. Superior, the oblique muscle of eyeball. So here first here the eyeball muscles means here the four muscles of the eyeballs are under the control of oculomotor. Next, trochlear is controlling the movement of superior oblique muscle of the eyeball. What about trigeminal? This is present in the head region, face, jaw and teeth. Abducens nerve, that is present in a particular name of the muscle of the eyeball. What is it called as? This is external rectus muscle. External rectus muscle of eyeball. Next, the facial. Yes, what is the distribution of facial here now? Facial nerve. Anterior 2/3 of tongue. Next, along with that one, the muscles of face. Along with that one, neck, and then it helps in chewing. What about the auditory? The name itself says their distribution is restricted to the ear only. The three parts of the ear which are under the control of this auditory nerve includes what is the organ of Corti, of cochlea, and then semicircular canals. Okay, that is regarding auditory nerve distribution. What about glossopharyngeal? So here anterior 2/3 we have discussed, right, regarding the tongue. Now this glossopharyngeal is among posterior 1/3 of tongue. Yes, along with that one, mucous membrane, along with that one, the muscles of pharynx. Next is the vagus. The vagus nerve is mainly being distributed among muscles of pharynx. Next, see, muscles of pharynx. What is the next to the pharynx is esophagus. After the esophagus, next is stomach. Next is intestine. So these parts of the gastrointestinal tract. Yes, along with that one, heart and vocal cord. Heart as well as the vocal cords. Next is spinal accessory. A spinal accessory is controlling which parts of the body? Yaudu? Huh? Muscles of palatine. Okay. So let's write that spinal accessory here. Okay, I'll write here for spinal accessory. So these are controlling the muscles of palate. Yes, next is pharynx. Pharynx and larynx. Pharynx as well as larynx. Next, vocal cords, the spinal accessory, neck. Next, what about hypoglossal last nerve that controls the muscles of teeth. Tongue and teeth. Tongue, neck is the right. Neck, tongue and neck, not teeth. Okay, fine. Now, so what are the functions? What is the nature of these nerves is very important for the aspect of need examination. Okay, so distribution is important, and then okay, with which lobes they are present and what is their nature. Based on the distribution, you can write their functions also, right? So what about their nature then? Means whether they are sensory or motor. So what is the nature of these cranial nerves? What about olfactory nerve? Whether they are sensory or the motor? So these are sensory. And the optic nerves, they are also sensory in nature. Next, oculomotor. So these are the motor in nature. Next, the trochlear nerve, those are also motor in nature. What about trigeminal? As they are present in head, face, jaw and teeth, right? So they are sensory also and the motor also. Okay, so both will be applicable for the, what is it? Trigeminal. What about abducens? Abducens. So they are motor in nature, only the motor. Next, what about facial? Motor as well as sensory. So here, sensory as well as motor in nature. Next, what about auditory? Auditory, that is organ of Corti. So these are sensory in function. Gasopharyngeal, which are present in posterior 1/3 of the tongue, and then mucous membrane and muscle of the pharynx. Motor or sensory? Sensory as well as motor. And next is regarding the vagus. What about vagus? Where it is present? Vagus is present among the muscles of pharynx and then esophagus, stomach, intestine. So both sensory as well as motor. Sensory as well as spinal accessory. What about spinal accessory? So as it controls mainly the muscles of palate, pharynx and then larynx and the vocal cords and neck and their movements. So these are the spinal accessory. So they are motor in function or motor in nature. What about hypoglossal? Muscles of the tongue and neck. So here also motor in nature. So by this, what we'll come to know means this particularly, so cranial nerves, either they will be sensory or motor, and few are both sensory as well as motor in their nature. Okay, this is with respect to the cranial nerves only. So any nerves which are present in our body, either they will be sensory or motor or both. So those are called as intersensory or the motor, or both sensory as well as the motor. Okay. Then what about these function of these nerves then? So based on the distribution only you can write the function of these nerves. So what are the functions of this olfactory nerve? As they are present in the olfactory lobe and distributed among the olfactory epithelium. So what is their function? Okay, so their function is to sense the smell, okay, or carry that olfactory information to the concerned the region in the or the area in the brain in order to analyze or interpret what particular the odor or the smell belongs to which of the substance. Next is the olfactory lobe. After that, optic nerve. It is mainly concerned with retina of eye. So retina is mainly concerned with the sight or the vision. Sight or vision. What about next one? Oculomotor. Oculomotor is mainly concerned with the movement of eyeball. Only eyeball, iris, and then eyelid and lens. What about trochlear nerve? That is superior oblique muscle of the eyeball, right? So it is concerned with rotation of eyeball. Rotation of eyeball. Next is trigeminal, as it is present in the head region, face, jaw and teeth. It is concerned with the movements of the muscles of forehead and then the scalp, and then that is the muscles of the forehead, scalp and then upper eyelid, yes, side of nose, along with the teeth as well as the jaw, teeth and jaw. The next is abducens nerve. So as we mentioned in the beginning of this class only, abducens nerve is mainly meant for rotation of eyeball, as it is mainly controls or it is associated with the rectus muscle of the eyeball. So it is concerned with rotation of eyeball. So how many cranial nerves are associated with the rotation of the eyeball? Means two are there. What are those? One is abducens and one more is that is trochlear nerve. Trochlear nerve. Next, the facial nerves, as they are associated with the 2/3 of the tongue and then muscles of the face, means their main function is to coordinate with the chewing, that is helps in the mastication of the food, and then as it is associated with the muscle of the face, means the facial expressions are the functions being controlled by what is that nerve? Facial nerve. And as it is associated with 2/3 of the tongue, means that is also meant for the taste and touch, taste as well as the touch. So it is associated with taste or touch, and then the facial expression along with that one, that is mastication of the food or the chewing. So these are the major functions being carried out, controlled by the facial nerves. So next is regarding auditory. So what is the function of auditory nerves? It is only hearing, or any other function is being carried out by the ear. The ear is an organ of balance of the body, right? That is equilibrium. So they are controlling the hearing as well as equilibrium of body or body equilibrium. Next, glossopharyngeal. So where the presence of glossopharyngeal means it is associated with the posterior 1/3 of the tongue. Okay. Next is the mucous membrane and then the muscles of the pharynx. So it is associated with the functions such as, yes, what are the functions of this one? Taste and touch, then movement of pharynx. So these are the major functions of glossopharyngeal. Next, vagus. So the main function of the vagus, it controls the production of the sound, as it is innervating or distributed among the vocal cords. Okay, it is distributed among vocal cords. And when it is associated with the heart, it slows down the heartbeat or function of the heart. The function of the heart will be slowed down. So with the innervation of which nerve? That is vagus nerve. So which slow down the heart function or the heartbeat. And next, it is associated with the sound production or the movement of vocal cords, and also it is associated with the muscles of pharynx and esophagus and stomach, means it is associated with the secretions of the glands associated with the digestive system. Okay, that is gastric secretion. Gastric secretion, not only the gastric secretion but also peristaltic movement in the gastrointestinal tract. So peristaltic movements. What do you mean by peristaltic movement of the gastrointestinal tract? Yes, peristaltic movement of gastrointestinal tract. That is a wave-like movement in the gastrointestinal tract that is required for the passage of food into the further sections of alimentary canal. Okay. Next, that is regarding the vagus. So spinal accessory, which includes the nerves innervating the muscles of the palate and then pharynx and larynx and then the vocal cord and neck. So here it is involved with the movement of the neck, movements in neck as well as the movements of the vocal cord for the production of sound, and along with that one the muscular movement of the pharynx and the muscles of palate that helps in, even the palate also helps in the chewing of the food or the mastication of the food. What do you mean by palate? The hard roof of the buccal cavity. Okay, hard roof as well as the floor of the buccal cavity is called as a palate. So that palate gives grip for the food substances to undergo the chewing or the crushing. That is called as a mastication. So that is what the function of spinal accessory. Lastly, the hypoglossal, as it is involved the muscle of tongue and then the neck, right? That is associated with functions such as movement of the tongue and as well as neck also. Movement of tongue as well as neck. Okay. So the table is given in the page number 60 of the material. Go through that table, practice at least 10 times, then only you can remember this table. And from this table, at least one question will be appearing in the examination, no doubt in that one. Okay, among these 12 cranial nerves, their origin, their nature, distribution and function, the more important for the NEET examination. Okay, first you remember the name of these cranial nerves in order wise. First three are, what are those first three? Olfactory, optic, oculomotor. Next two T's, three O's, then two T's. Trochlear and then trigeminal. Next is abducens, facial and then auditory. After that, glossopharyngeal, vagus, next spinal accessory and hypoglossal. Okay, so remember this order. First remember the order of the cranial nerves. Then in which lobes they are present? First one is olfactory lobe, next one is optic lobe. Next two are mid of the forebrain. Okay, next four are from pons, next four are from side of medulla. Okay, then with respect to their lobes, okay, remember the part of the body what they are going to innervate or where they are got distributed in the human body, and based on the distribution only, so you can write their functions. Okay, and whether they are sensory or the motor, that also you need to remember. Is it clear? Okay, so copy this table from the material only. Okay, for those who are watching this video, I will provide separate table after editing this video. Okay, any doubt in this one? Okay, fine. This is regarding the cranial nerves or the 12 pair of cranial nerves which are present in the amniotes, particularly with respect to the human beings. It innervates almost all parts of the body, right? So only this vagus nerve is longest nerve in the human body. What about the largest nerve then? Longest is different and largest is different. The largest one is trigeminal. Okay. Smallest one is abducens is the smallest cranial nerve, and thinnest is trochlear. This trochlear is associated with which part of the body? Eye. Trochlear is associated with eye. Okay. So remember these also important for the NEET examination. Next is regarding spinal nerves. Spinal nerves. What do you mean by spinal nerves? The nerves which arises from the spinal cord are called as spinal nerves. So these nerves arises from spinal cord and number of spinal nerves are equal to number of vertebrae in vertebral column. So number of spinal nerves in frog are 10 pairs. What about in case of human beings? So number of spinal nerves in humans, so these are 31 pairs, but number of vertebrae are only 26 in adults. And number of spinal nerves in case of a rabbit is how many? 37 pairs. So remember these numericals. Okay, particularly in human beings, these spinal nerves are named according to their location. So where they are arising or in which part of the vertebral column they arises. Okay. So based on their location, these spinal nerves are given different names. What are those names of the spinal nerves? And from where they are being arised? From 26 vertebrae of vertebral column. These nerves which arises from the vertebral columns. See, spinal nerves are named based on their origin. So and are classified as is first one, cervical spinal nerves, which arises from the cervical region of the vertebral column. So what is the number of such nerves? Means how many nerves will arise from here? 8 pairs. 8 pairs. But the number of cervical vertebrae are 7. Right? Okay. But number of cervical nerves arises from it are 8 pairs. So what about from the next region? What is that? Thoracic region. Second one is thoracic. So thoracic spinal nerves are 12 pairs only. 12 pairs. So one extra pair of spinal nerves are arising from the cervical region. Next, the third section after the thoracic region is lumbar, right? So lumbar spinal nerves. How many pairs of lumbar spinal nerves arises means here? The 5 pairs. Okay, and number of lumbar vertebrae are 5 only in the human beings. What about in case of the next one, that is sacral? How many sacral bones are present in human beings? 1. Okay, but actually they are 5 in number, they fused to form 1 more, right? Okay, next is the sacral spinal nerves. So how many pairs are there here? Here also the 5 pairs of spinal nerves arises from it. So 12 plus 8, 20, then 5 pairs and 5 pairs. 30 pairs are over, right? The remaining only 1 pair that arises from coaxial, right? So coaxial or coxal spinal nerves, only 1 pair. So like this, total 31 pair of the spinal nerves arises from the various parts of what is it? Vertebral column. Vertebral column. Okay. Based on the origin of their location over the vertebral column, so they are classified as cervical spinal nerves, thoracic spinal nerves, lumbar spinal nerves, sacral spinal nerves, and in the coaxial spinal nerves. Okay. Extra ellide illi hagadre. So only 1 pair in case of cervical, and the 4 extra pairs in case of sacral. So total how many extra are there? 5 pairs. So the number of vertebrae in human beings are 26 plus these 5 pairs extra. So the 31 pairs of spinal nerves are present in human beings. What is the nature of these spinal nerves? So we have got the nature of the cranial nerves. Either they will be sensory or motor, but very few are there. So they can be both sensory as well as motor with respect to their function being carried out. What about the nature of these spinal nerves? Yes, with respect to the nature. So what is the nature of spinal nerves? So all spinal nerves are mixed in nature. What do you mean mixed? Both sensory as well as the motor. So here all spinal nerves are mixed in nature and are medullated. What do you mean by medullated? What do you mean by medullated? Covered by myelin sheath. Covered by myelin sheath, then they are called as medullated. So all the spinal nerves are medullated and they are mixed in nature. Okay, and the spinal nerves which mainly leaves the spinal cord by means of 2 roots. What are those? Dorsal root as well as the ventral root. Then the spinal nerves are of 2 types here. Spinal nerves are of 2 types. What are those? That is sensory or afferent, and second one is motor or efferent. Right? So from where they enter or they leave the spinal cord? The sensory or afferent nerves, they enter the spinal cord through dorsal root. So the sensory or the afferent nerves, they enters spinal cord through dorsal root of spinal cord. So in previous class we have discussed regarding reflex arc, right? Reflex arc, where the sensory neurons from the visceral organs as well as the somatic organs of the body, they enter through the dorsal root ganglion, and then through the dorsal horn they enter into the gray matter of the spinal cord. Okay, so those neurons are called as sensory neurons or the afferent neurons. They relay sensory information from different parts of the body to the spinal cord, and in that spinal cord such a sensory information is being analyzed, and the response for such stimuli so will be sent through the motor neurons or the efferent neurons as motor impulses, and such motor nerves are the efferent nerves, they leaves spinal cord through ventral root. They leaves the spinal cord through the ventral root. Ventral root. Say for example, so this is what the diagrammatic representation of what is it? Spinal cord. So here, for example, in your NEET examination, if this diagrammatic representation is asked, representing the one way as, say for example, here the A or the B is given, then here the C, and then D, and then E is given. So here arrow mark is being mentioned. Okay. So what exactly here? The A is representing, a B represents, C represents, D represents, and then the E represents. We know that one. The arrow mark which lead into the spinal cord represent sensory nerves. Sensory nerves. So here, for example, the B is the sensory nerve which is being, sorry, okay, I will write C here. So C is the sensory nerve which is carrying the sensory information through the dorsal root of that spinal cord. Before the sensory nerve, the A is representing here sensory organ. Sensory organ. When the stimulus is applied to that sensory organ, okay, it may be the intensity of the light, it may be the temperature, it may be the touch, it may be the smell, right, or it may be the taste. So receptors present in that sensory organ may get activated and action potential generated in them, so may travel through the sensory nerves into the spinal cord. So what the A is representing here? A is representing sensory organs. B, receptors in that organs. Next is sensory nerves. Sensory nerves. Then the sensory information being analyzed in the spinal cord. Then it is carried through what this D is representing? Motor neurons. And what the E is representing here? Effector organs. After the E, if you write F here, what the F will be representing? Response against that stimuli. Response against the stimuli. Okay, so this type of diagrammatic representation may be asked in the NEET examination. Remember that. Okay, so remember that before answering this question, you must be knowing that through the dorsal root of the spinal cord, only the sensory or the afferent nerves enter into the gray matter, and motor and then the motor or the efferent nerves which leave the spinal cord through the ventral root. And these sensory nerves may be from the somatic organs or from the involuntary organs such as the gastrointestinal tract or the kidney or the liver or the heart. Okay, what about these motor or the efferent nerves? That also carry the motor impulses either to the involuntary organ or to the somatic organs. If they carry to the involuntary organ means, so the such nerves are differentiated into two parts. What are those? Preganglionic nerve and then the postganglionic nerve. Why? Because their ganglion will be present near the effector organ. Near the effector organ. But for the sensory neurons, the ganglion will be present near the dorsal root of that spinal cord. Dorsal root of the spinal cord. So this is regarding the information regarding the two type of spinal cord based on the information they relay or the transmit. They relay or transmit. Any doubt in this one? Okay. So this is regarding the information of spinal as well as the cranial nerves. The remaining things we'll discuss in the next class. Okay. Regarding the autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system and number of the cranium or the what is it called as the number of ganglions or the type of ganglions which are present in the cranium. So what they are named as and what is the difference between those the what is called as ganglion among the frog and then the human beings. That we will discuss in the next class. Thank you.